it's Lisa, and welcome back to another killer episode of Nashville on the Rocks. Our guest today has been blazing a trail through the hard rock punk metal scene since his days growing up in South Lake Tahoe, California. Most recognized as the long-standing bassist for the legendary godfather of shock rock, Alice Cooper, he's paid his dues and then some, relentlessly touring or writing or both with many other acts as well, such as the Eric Singer Project, LA Guns, and the late great Ronnie James Dio. About a decade ago, stepping into the spotlight as a songwriter, vocalist, and guitarist, he unleashed his unforgiving hard rock metal band, Beasto Blanco, with guitarist Chris Latham and co-singer Calico Cooper. With a perfect cocktail of heavy riffs, driving bass, and melodic choruses, he and Beasto Blanco are set to tour this summer in support of their forthcoming studio release scheduled for July. So if you call yourself a true metalhead, you're definitely going to enjoy this interview with our friend Chuck Garric. Hey, Chuck, thank you so much for being on the podcast and making the time to be here. This is very exciting for Dan and me. We're so happy that you could join us today. Yeah, thank you for coming in the studio.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we appreciate you, man. You know.
Right on.
Yep. So for all of our listeners, we have Chuck Garric here. He is really well known in the hard rock metal world. So obviously you're the bassist for Alice Cooper. Yeah. You're the singer / guitar player for Beasto Blanco, and you have a wide variety of bands that you've played with over your career. This is just super exciting to have you here today.
Thank you. Yeah, well, you got to start somewhere before you get to Alice Cooper. You know?
No, it's funny you say that. And Alice Cooper, man, he's like, what, 74?
He's a little bit older than that.
Really?
Yeah.
And I saw him for the first time this year in September when you guys played Bridgestone.
Right.
And I was so impressed. It was my second time seeing Rob Zombie, first time seeing Alice Cooper, and I was just like, man, I am so happy that he's out touring and like still making music and killing it. It came out with the snake and everything. It was, I don't know, that would have made me nervous, but very rock and roll, very rock and roll.
Well, Alice is good at what he does. You know? And I mean, you'd never know how old he is. Or when I first met him, that was 20-something years ago, and he still does the same exact show that he's been doing since I've known him, and seems to be the same exact show he's been doing, at least through the 80s. Yeah. So he loves what he does.
That's so cool.
And he surrounds himself with great musicians and great people, so it makes it easy for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you guys were great. I think I took the most videos because we had good seats. I will say that I took the most videos of your band and of Alice Cooper and just like of you and Nita Strauss, and that was super cool. Like just seeing that. But I was super impressed. Good. So it was a fun show.
Yeah, well, we were just out there to destroy Rob Zombie. That's all we wanted to do.
A little bit of a friendly competition going on there, right?
Rob's a dear friend.
Right? And the fact that you guys have another tour scheduled coming up in September?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I think August, September, yeah.
Okay. So I was looking into that, and I'm like, I was just super cool to see that. And I will say that you are very busy. You're always on tour, and you have a tour coming up with Beasto Blanco, right? But that's in Europe, right?
Well, yeah, so we just released our first single off our new upcoming record Connecticut, and we just released our first single, Run For Your Life.
Mm-hmm. Killer song, by the way, dude.
Thank you very much, brother. Sure. Appreciate it. Produced and co-written by Chris Harms from Lord of the Lost. I don't know if you guys know who they are, if your fan base does, but you guys should check them out. They're really creative guys and super talented. Chris Harms is a great songwriter, and him and I and Calico did the record in Germany.
Nice.
And we had a great time. It was really fun working together. So we finished the record, and Run For Your Life was the obvious choice for the first single because it's definitely going to be a little bit of a transition musically, which we always like to take chances and do something a little different than each record, has its own little flavor.
Sure.
So this one kind of, Run For Your Life, just seemed to be a good song to have as what people know as Beasto Blanco, and maybe what they if new fans coming in would hear this and think, oh wow, they like the song, then they could go back to the back catalog and go along the journey with us. So
yeah,
we've got 4 shows coming up in Europe this year, end of July into August, ending at the Wacken Festival, which is, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's one of the biggest music festivals in Germany, and I think possibly in Europe as well. It's a 3-day, 4-day festival, and I think there's 100,000 people show up there.
Wow.
Okay.
Really fun. It's like the holy ground of heavy metal, rock and roll music. Yeah, so we're excited to do that. It'll be the first time I've had the opportunity to play Wacken with Beasto, so
nice.
The guys and the gal are really excited about that, and then I'll head back out on the road with Alice, and then pick back up in September in the States with Beasto. And then some more dates in November over in Europe with Beasto as well.
Very cool.
So I'm going to have a very busy year, like you said. I'm a busy person. This year is going to be a little bit busier than the previous, which is good.
Just
rocking
keep it moving.
is my business, and business is good.
Business is good.
Hey, Chuck, can I ask you, what is the difference between those European metal crowds and the American ones, man? Is there a big difference there, you feel?
I think there is. I try to keep everything cohesive when I'm on stage. I don't want to feel like, I'm in, Ohio and who gives a shit, or
right.
I'm at the Wacken Festival and hell yeah, these kids rock. Mm-hmm. It's not fair. But I do think there is an understanding. If you're a European rock fan, that your heartbeat is different for metal and rock and roll, and they understand that, and I think there's more of an excitement over there.
Right.
There's an energy that it's infectious, it's contagious, and I think they understand how to participate. Mm-hmm. Not to say that U.S. doesn't, because I think during a festival and bigger in some other shows, they really get into it. But rock and roll is dangerous and uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And we over here like to make it comfortable. Mm. You know what I mean?
Okay.
In a bathroom nearby, maybe an air-conditioned venue or something like that. You know what I mean? Not
Got
over
the
there,
boot
man.
seats and
Not
all that
there,
behind
dude.
the glass.
They've been sitting in that front row and camping out all night, and they're ready to party and ready to have
I feel like that's
time.
like the 70s all over again.
Yeah, you know, maybe I'd like to think so, but I there is a difference. It doesn't mean one's better than the other, but there is a difference.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I've had my fair share of European metal bands that I've been fans of over the years.
Yeah.
So definitely into that.
Sure.
I have to say, I want to kind of dive into your background a little bit, because I'm always interested to hear where people came from. So, did you come from a musical family?
Not necessarily. I mean, my dad ended up later in life. When I started picking up the music, he had a real fondness for bluegrass and the Civil War. It was something he had taken a lot of interest in. So he started playing the banjo, and then I had already sort of learned to play bass at that time, so we got an acoustic guitar, and him and I would jam together on occasion, and bass, and we'd jam songs together. But I was much older. I was, like in my late teens, 14, 15, when that started happening for him. But I just came from a family of just of people that worked really hard. My dad was a hard-working man and a real supportive guy, and my parents were as well. But, I had 2 older brothers that were definitely... kind of on the wrong side of the tracks, if you will. They were ruthless and brutal, but they're also they lived a lot more life than I had lived in my early years. And so my brother Randy kind of turned me on to bands like Humble Pie and Queen and Ted Nugent and everything 70s. And I had just picking up the trumpet in elementary school.
Okay.
Because I loved music as well. And then he took me to go see Humble Pie and all these bands, and I really just started feeling myself just like all of a sudden the light bulb just clicked that this was something that I wanted to know more about. And I had some neighborhood kids. I came from a really, really small town, so I was lucky enough. I don't even know how it happened, but
where did you come from?
Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
So I lived in the mountains, and just down the street were two brothers that played drums and guitar, and
just
they didn't just
randomly.
Yeah, and it was bizarre, and because not only did they play, but the older brother Mike, could really play. At like 16, he was playing Van Halen and Zeppelin, and just like really well, like really, really well. And
that's awesome.
They would play together, the two of them. They wanted to form a band, so I just said, well, I just went and got a bass. I didn't know anything about it, and Mike
you had never played bass before?
Didn't know anything.
Wow.
And we just started learning songs together and jamming at backyard parties. We'd learn a bunch of Sabbath tunes and whatever we'd get our hands on to. We had no singer, and we would just jam. And
that's cool.
That's just that's how I kind of just formed a love for that style of music, and that's where I developed a love for like Bob Daisley and all these different bass players that just were coming from all of these different genres of music that I was listening to. John Deacon and Cliff Williams and all of these guys that I just was like, wow, I just was listening to music. I didn't necessarily focus on who the bass player was as much as I focused on the vibe of the bands and stuff. So
sure.
Yeah, I just started taking over, and quickly, just to wrap it up, school just wasn't a thing for me. I graduated and everything. I did it because it was important to my parents, but I think I knew that was the path I was going to go. I had no other choice.
Yeah.
And so I went, from there out of high school. That's when I moved to Los Angeles and went to music school.
Now I don't know, how far is Tahoe from LA?
It's about eight hours or so.
That's substantial. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might as well be like another state.
What's that?
Yeah.
It might as well be like another state. It's 8 hours is a pretty long drive.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And
Sure.
Lake Tahoe, is on the Nevada-California border pretty much. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved to LA, and then did you move with anybody or?
I did. The journey started with 3 other guys and ended with me in LA.
Yeah.
It was
survival of the fittest.
Man. Well, I think when you're, you know what you want. You know what I mean? Like if you got a plan and somebody's coming along with you, if they're not with you, then it just becomes sort of an issue. And as a young kid, we don't have any money, and we can't. I don't know what's going to happen next. And that was the exciting thing about it. But for a couple of these other guys, it was too risky.
I get that.
And everybody started drifting off as we started making our way there. We were staying at friends' houses, making it our way to LA, and car broke down kind of thing. And we had to stick around at somebody's house for a couple of weeks and got it fixed. And we're hitchhiking in and out of town. And I fucking loved it. I thought it was so cool. I can't wait to see what happens in LA because I had no idea, but they didn't make it. I did. I ended up getting a motel that I lived in for the first month.
Okay.
I'd saved enough money in Tahoe to kind of survive. I got a job at a music store right away, and that's where I met Brother Latham, the guitar player for Beasto.
No kidding.
Wow, you guys go way back, huh?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I just want to add, when you have that drive and the passion, there's like that inner river of you get from music. It's not from anything exterior. It's just like, it's one of those things where I'm going to be doing this till I die. It doesn't matter how it ends up. And you know what I'm saying? I think that's what it takes to be a true artist too. When you're on that journey, you got to be committed.
Yeah. It was a natural feeling. It wasn't something like look, man, I'm not like a guy who's been in a rock star, if you will, my whole life. Like I haven't. I've always had jobs. Even as a musician in LA, I always worked. I would work. I always had a 9 to 5 or some sort of job to pay my bills. I've never lived off of anybody. I've never had that type of lifestyle. My parents weren't able to, provide that for me. But I just had an understanding that I loved music. And when I went to LA, I was surrounded by, 100,000 other people that loved music. And to me, I was just, whoa, look at all this. Who are all these people?
That's
and
cool.
Wow. And it was cool, and it was terrifying, and it was fun, and
Exciting.
it was dangerous, and it was exciting, and all that stuff. And I had a lot to learn when I was in music school, because if they needed a guy that could play Black Sabbath and Queen and Iron Maiden and AC/DC, then I was the guy. But that's not what they were teaching there. It was blues and jazz.
You went to like a
Dick
music
Grove
school
of Music.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to learn to read music and transcribe and all of it. And
well, that's kind of cool.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it taught me a lot. And I was playing jazz, and I was playing fusion, and I was playing funk, and all of the fun stuff that I never would have ever played if I was just left at my own device to learn to play bass. And it really taught me how to become a bass player, and to be a working bass player. So
that's a really interesting story for it. I think that's a cool way to go about it. Dan and I come from upstate New York in Rochester, and they have a huge jazz. It's just jazz up there. Like, they have a huge jazz festival. It's like 300,000 people come to it like every year. So, I have an understanding for that. So it's always good to break out of your box, especially when you're young, and get some sort of other training other than what you would be doing, because it just opens your horizons up.
Well, yeah, and I thought the one thing that was really interesting about jazz, and I'm not a jazz bass player by any stretch of the imagination. I love going and watching people do it and play and perform it, but I realized with jazz it was like, well, what am I doing? And the guy's like, well, here are the chord changes, and you're going to play the walking bass line through these chord changes. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to improvise. I'm going to make up my own shit. Oh, I'm going to fake it, because I'm not a jazz guy. I'm a rock guy. I'm a kid who grew up on this other music, so I'm faking it. So then I learned, well, if I'm going to fake it, I got to fake it well.
Right.
Because I've got these guys like Joe DiBartolo, the bass player for The Tonight Show, and Dean Tauber, one of the most sought-after studio bass players in L.A., watching me play bass. And so I'm faking it really super loud and just playing with the drums and doing my thing. And that was my opportunity to kind of fail, because it didn't matter. I paid to be here, so they were going to have to work with me.
Oh,
but it taught me to, kind of say yes to everything and go, well, I'll just figure it out, because what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And that kind of helped me hone in my skills early as a bass player. I realized that, you can be great, and that's cool, and I can sit in my room and practice, but man, I just want to get out there and play.
Just play.
Apply it,
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that too. I think at some point you got to sort of step off the cliff. And I did, and I failed miserably lots of times, and auditioned left and right for tons and tons of different bands, and I think it was when I just felt like I didn't care anymore. Really, I know I didn't care about where I was or what was going to happen from all of it, or I sort of placed the importance of being a bass player and a working musician as sort of just secondary. It was just sort of it was like, just having a cup of coffee. It's like that important to me. That's when the rivers open, the floodgates open for me,
I could see that. And it's almost like you're definitely
liberating, right?
You're creating a resilience.
Yeah.
In yourself. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Like a fearlessness, whatever, of taking the chances constantly.
I was fearful, but at times, it's tough. I think that's the thing when you realize when you're sitting there, you go, hey man, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I got to survive. So I think when you just take the importance out of everything, and you just go, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but man, it's really far away. I need to take these steps first, and that's I want to be able to provide for myself. I learned other trades. I learned to build a motorcycle recently, but I mean back then I learned how to I was a carpenter. I did so many different jobs.
Oh, that's cool.
And learned how to do other things to provide for myself, and I think those were when I started doing that, I don't know, it just helped me. It just kind of put some other things in place. So the next time I got an audition, I just felt like I was a little less worried about the outcome.
Sure.
So by that mindset, probably helped me play a little bit better. a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more free. And I noticed that I was starting to get more attention from people, and then I was getting asked to do more and more gigs.
Yeah, you're like not white knuckling it. You're kind of settling into it more, and you're like, it's not the end of the world type of thing.
And with each like successful thing that you got over a hump or you hit a bump in the road, it's like more validating maybe to keep continuing and say, hey, what I'm doing is working.
Sure.
For me, it just gives you more confidence and going, just committing,
Yeah, and I think, knowing, like, look, not a lot of people know this, but when I auditioned for Alice Cooper, I didn't get the gig the first time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there you go.
Well, and I know you played with a few people before you even got with Alice Cooper, so, like, I know you did, you played with Ted Neugent.
I backed up Ted Neugent at a charity event.
Oh, okay.
It's awesome. My Wikipedia is great. It says I played with Ted Nugent and Journey and
it's funny is that your Wikipedia is like this big. So I'm like, is this even correct or like what is this?
I played bass with Ted on one or two events where it was like a charity event, and we did like probably 5 or 6 tunes together or whatever. But yeah, fuck it. I played with Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
Dude, did you play Wango Tango?
I did.
Man? Yeah, hell
did
yeah.
You really?
Yeah.
And did you play with Dio then?
Oh,
so that was right.
Yeah,
that part was right.
That was the
definitely
best. That was probably, I don't know, single-handedly one of the coolest things that ever happened.
And was that like your first?
So I did a tour, a summer run with LA Guns. I got a gig with them, and this is sort of the beginning of my career. I had my daughter at the time, and I auditioned for LA Guns. And
do you mind me asking what year this is?
I think it was like 99.
Okay.
I auditioned for LA Guns. I got the gig, and I was a good fit for the guys. I primarily got the gig because like the pay was shit. It was terrible. And I knew that going into it, and I didn't know what to do because I was, a single dad at the time, and I'd support my mom and my sister, and everybody's like, hey, you go do this. We'll help you take care of Alicia, my daughter, and it's going to be 3-4 months, no big deal. So I was like, great, and the money was terrible, and I remember like CC. It was with Poison and Great White and Rat, and she's like, "Fuck it, Chuck, just fucking do it. Nobody knows who you are.
Nice,
just do it, and maybe you get something out of it." And I'm like, all right, so I did LA Guns, and it was great. And Tracy became a really good friend, and Jizzy was singing, and Steve Riley, was a really good dude, and we did it, and it was terrible. The money was terrible, and it was awful, but we had a lot of fun. And I got out there, and I was playing sheds, and I was playing all the big places, and we had a lot of fun, and I was like, all of a sudden, I came home, and they had fired me because of they wanted to reunite with the original band members. And I was like, oh, and I actually was kind of relieved because the money was terrible, and we had fun. I just didn't see what my future was going to be in that band, but. I wasn't sure, but again, this goes back to me being kind of fearless at the time because I was like, well, you know what? I know that either something else is going to happen or, whatever, no big deal. I'm cool. So I was working in a recording studio at post-production place, and I had a good friend who was Ronnie James Dio's bass tech, and Jimmy Bain couldn't go to Europe and Japan. And they asked him, Chris, hey, Chris, do you know of any bass players? And he goes, I do. I know a guy who just got off the LA Guns tour. Now, that's not me making a phone call or anything. That's me going and doing a shitty tour for no money. And now everybody thinks that, it's really cool and you're really big and famous and all this stuff, right? So it was nice. I see how it all worked. And then, so I got a phone call from Wendy Dio. And she asked me if I wanted to audition. And I said, yes, of course. And I knew all that stuff. I was born and raised on Dio. He was my guy.
Nice.
Right? I mean, I loved Rainbow.
He's one of my guys.
Sabbath, and I loved his solo stuff, and I knew it all. Like it was no brainer. I'm there, and so a couple weeks later, I auditioned, and Ronnie hired me right on the spot. I played 3 or 4 songs, and he asked me what I was doing in November. And I said, nothing. So he offered me the gig and asked me if I had a passport, and I said yes, which I didn't have at the time, so I had to go after the gig and get one. But again, it goes back to just sort of faking it, and what am I going to do? Tell them, no, I don't have one. Sorry. Thanks for the opportunity. You're gonna, so I got to figure it out. So I figured that out, obviously, and I did the Dio tour. And I'll never forget because I went and saw LA Guns a couple nights after I got the gig.
Funny. You're like, thanks, guys.
Yeah, and they were like, hey, man, sorry things didn't work out, bro, but, you'll find a gig.
You're like, I'm cool.
I did. I found one. They're like, oh, cool. Hey, who are you playing for? And I was like, yeah, Ronnie James Dio.
Is that when you saw them in the Enormo Dome, and shit in the lobby?
And I don't mean to throw it in their face or anything like that, because Steve and Tracy, they were such good guys. I mean, they gave me an opportunity, but it was like, holy shit, bro. So that worked out really well, and I did that for 2 years, and I got to see the world. It was my first time going over to Europe and touring, and we opened for my favorite band of all time, which was Motorhead, and like those guys became really super good friends of mine, and they still are, and they know management and everybody.
Dude, Chuck, they know about your your perfect impression of Lemmy, man, right? You know what I'm saying, dude? You're kind of famous for that shit.
You can't, man. I mean, when it's good, right?
Man,
Motorhead to me, just like I sat there and I watched every single show, every single night on tour with them. I hailed them, and I just love their energy. I love their take on rock and roll. To me, they're the Rolling Stones of that type of sound.
That's awesome.
They're just so
and Lemmy's original lyrics and shit, and he's a smart motherfucker.
Matter, man. That guy didn't care about anything, and I loved them. Awesome. And they were so great. They were so great live, and Mickey D's drumming was so powerful, and I love it. And so yeah, I did the Dio tour for a while, and then Jimmy Bain came back because they were going to go do the U.S. run, and after the U.S. run, I took a couple of years off because at that time I really was focusing on being a dad with my daughter, who I'd had basically since she was 1.5.
Sure.
I was coaching their soccer team, and man, we were just having the time of my
adorable.
life. Yeah, we were having so much fun. Like, it was art classes and school, and I was just into it. I was working at a recording studio, and I was dialed. I was like, man, I am so set. And then I got the call with Alice Cooper, Eric Singer, and Gilby Clark.
Nice.
A friend of mine referred me. So I auditioned for Alice, and I didn't get it. And the truth be told, I really wasn't bummed, because my life was so good.
Okay.
I was so happy where I was at. I was enjoying time with my kid, and I was cool with it. I auditioned. I didn't have a great audition, I didn't think, anyway. So I was like, well, I'll just, hey, thanks for asking me. But I kind of felt like it hadn't gone away yet, so they always stayed in touch with me.
Okay.
And then I think it was about 1.5 years or so later, I got a phone call in the morning from one of the guys in the Alice Cooper band saying, hey, man, we'd like for you to come to join the band if you'd be into it. So that's how it's all started. And my first time meeting Alice and was actually was on stage, filmed television show with him where I filled in as a bass player. We did 3 songs. And
jumped right in.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. And Alice offered me the gig right there on the spot afterwards as well. And
that's awesome.
I thought it would last a couple of years, and it's been 21.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and time flies, I bet, man, when you're having fun, right?
I look at pictures of myself. I was like just this young kid.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of that, dude, you look like you're 25, dude. I don't know what you eat. You got to be exercising every day, all that stuff, living a healthy life,
man.
What he's
doing.
I try to eat healthy as much as I can.
Man, I might have to ask you for some tips, dude.
No problem,
you know what I'm saying? All right.
No problem.
I need help.
I will help you.
I
need help, man.
I love it. So I've got to say that playing with Alice Cooper, once you got into the band, did you guys just kind of settle in right away? Did it jive well?
Yeah, the jive was really well. I mean, I'd known those guys for a while, especially Eric and Ryan. Roxy was new. We were kind of new friends, but we kind of knew each other a little bit. I had a lot of respect for those guys, Eric and Ryan and Alice and Teddy Zigzag and those guys. They're really, really great musicians.
That's cool.
And really knew a lot of they were all just like walking jukeboxes, man. Those guys can play anything.
That's nice.
So I was super intimidated because, like I said earlier, I was I'd taken time off. I was done in a way. I wasn't sure. So I walked into that thing, and I really realized when I saw the set list that I had a lot of fucking songs to learn. A lot. Okay. I had a lot of catching up to do because there were so many different versions of these songs between band members and live versions and record versions and all of this stuff. And I had to really change my style of playing. I wasn't really hip to Dennis Dunaway that much until I started getting into the Alice Cooper old stuff. And I realized, wow, I have a similar approach to Dennis with this stuff. So it became fun to learn, but it took me a while to catch up to those guys. Where I find myself in that situation now when anybody new comes in, or I always tell them, hey, just chill out. Don't worry, because we got you. And, it just takes you time to go through all these songs, because Alice has such a massive collection. Catalog of songs. And we had to, and those guys seemed to know anything he wanted to play. If they said, hey, this was our set list, and all of a sudden you go, hey, what about Is It My Body? And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know that one. But then they would start playing it. So I'm sitting there just going, oh my God, this is so embarrassing because I don't know it. They do. But they were all real patient with me, and I would just go home. I don't know if you're familiar with the record Eyes of Alice Cooper. It came out when I was in the band. That's the record I was played on when I joined the band. So we would
super cool.
learn the record that day and then rehearse. And so I'd go home and I would learn a bunch of Alice songs. So that was my whole, month or so, just learning the record, learning, what we're doing for the album, going to the rehearsal, trying to figure out what my role was, and just honing it in. And they're all really great. And, that's where Calico was in the band as well. And we, it was just a great little family. It was great people.
Hey, Chuck, when you're, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're all good.
When you are learning this stuff, man, what type of guy are you? Are you like an over preparer? You worry that you're not up to par and you always come over prepared, or you just you just kind of let it be free, and you absorb it the way that you absorb it and you're good with it?
No, I take both approach, man. I think sometimes songs can either become they're easily learned. You're like, okay, yeah, cool. Other songs you're just going to be like, hey man, I'm learning this tune off the record. And Eric Singer's now going to be playing drums. So how much of this is he going to be doing? And how much of the guitar work is Ryan going to be doing? Where are we at musically with this thing? So sometimes I would just have to trust that I knew the part, and then we would go in and rehearse it.
And then you have like an improv.
Yeah, you would just rehearse it. We'd have time to rehearse it.
Sure.
And Alice, unlike Ronnie, Alice isn't going to tell you what you're playing.
Okay.
He'll know if it's wrong, and he'll give you the opportunity to get it right. Ronnie, on the other hand, was very meticulous, and he could sing your bass line.
I could see that.
Yeah, and so it had to be right. And I would dig my toes into my boots, man, on stage, and I would play everything, just every note perfect for that guy.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, he would look at you.
Give you the stank eye?
Yeah, man. It was like, whoa, you didn't want that. Yeah. I didn't want that kind of attention.
Yeah, so you don't want that attention.
The only attention I wanted from Ronnie was one night I went out drinking, and me and Simon, and we got hammered, I think, and it was a late night, early morning, rolling into the hotel, and we were leaving at like in an hour, and we were just getting back, and I come walking in, Ronnie just looks at me, he's like, oh my God.
He's like the referee.
He goes, what in the fuck happened to you, man? I'm like, you don't know, and it's all good, I'll be fine. And I go to my room, I'm just trying to gather my stuff. And that was the attention, because he thought that was fun,
Yeah.
Right.
He knew you were having a good time.
Yeah, I didn't want the attention of making mistakes on stage. So I did that one time. I had one boo-boo, and I tried to keep that to a minimum.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm enjoying all these stories, and I really want to dive in more into the to how you started working with Calico and Beastö Blancö. We're gonna take a break, real quick, so I can get some gear together, because I teach my guests how to make a cocktail.
Let's do it.
Now, you do have your bike today, so I think that you're right. I think that we should avoid drinking alcohol. So we're going to make a mocktail.
Yeah,
is that
do
cool?
Mocktail. Yeah. No
Okay,
problem.
awesome.
Okay.
So I'm going to get some stuff together, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey everybody, this is Michael J, and you are either listening to or watching Nashville on the Rocks.
So we are back. We're going to make a fun mocktail, and I'm sure that you might guess on this show, there's a couple people I've interviewed that don't drink, which I think is kind of fun. And I enjoy the fact that you said that you really don't like a lot of sugar, because I think a lot of mocktails have sugar, additional sugar you don't need. And maybe just as a woman in general, I'm always trying to watch for, I want to have a couple of drinks, but I don't need like excess calories.
Yeah.
So
we're both trying to watch our girlish figure.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do something a little bit fun. We got some bitters, we got some lemon juice, some Topo Chico, and some ginger ale we'll just use for a little bit of extra flavoring. Okay, so the thing about carbonation is that you never want to shake it. For my guests at home, you never want to put it in this tin and shake it. It will explode in your face. That's not fun. So, so what we're gonna do?
You're blowing up the table, babe. Just want to let you know.
Oh, I'm so sorry because I'm like slamming everything.
It's okay. It's rock and roll.
All right. So we're gonna. This is the same ice we're gonna use in the glass. So we're just gonna shake this tin of the contents, and then we're gonna pour it right in the glass. So we're gonna take this. We're gonna take the small end right here on this jigger, and we're gonna fill it to about the halfway point. So this is fresh squeezed lemon juice. All right. I'm so excited that you're doing this. Cool. Yeah. Pour it in. Okay. So you got some ice in there already. And what we're going to do is we're going to just put this small tin on top of it. And we're going to shake it for about 10-15 seconds. You're going to feel it get cold. Okay. All right. Ready? Talk about being on the spot. Didn't we just say that before?
Put the lime in the coconut.
This is amazing.
Badass, man.
All right, now it's starting to get chilly.
Yeah, I see it. Look at that.
All right, is it frosty?
Hell yeah,
Good.
man.
Okay.
Right, wash me on it.
Right. So we're just gonna take this, pour it right into the glass. Now, normally I would have other things with it, but it's fine. We don't need that today. So here we are. Perfect. So we just got a little bit of ice cubes that are just diluted because of the shaking, and some lemon, and then we're gonna do some Topo Chico. Okay, so I am a fan of your name for this cocktail. So we're gonna call it the, what is it again?
Well, I have a cocktail, a mocktail that I make, and you can add vodka or tequila to it, but I call it Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
We're
Okay.
having Kumbaya right now.
Very
so
cool.
You can call this a Kumbaya.
Very
Kumbaya.
cool.
You can call it the Nashville Rocks Kumbaya.
I love it. So we have about 3/4 of the glass with carbonated Topo Chico. We're topping off with just a little bit of
sugar
ginger
in
ale.
this here.
Yeah, there's so much sugar in regular ginger ale versus like a glass of Coke.
I know.
It's
trust me.
insane. I had
Did
no
not know
idea.
that.
And then we're gonna take these orange bitters.
Okay.
And then we're just gonna just put a little on top.
All right.
Nice.
All right. Babe, I didn't make you a cocktail
It's
today.
all right.
I'm sorry.
I'll take the leftovers whenever he's gone.
And then I have this awesome little skull.
Don't worry about me.
Lemon
Ooh,
juice,
look at that.
right? These are sharp as fuck though, so just be careful. All right, so this is our little garnish. So this is our cocktail right
All
here.
Sounds good. Well, cheers.
All right, cheers. Thank you for coming on the
All right.
podcast. I love it.
All right.
Take a drink. See if it's good.
Sweet. Man, must be nice, huh? I bet it's great.
It's actually perfect for
Oh,
today.
it's really
It is.
good.
It's
Yeah,
pretty.
it's
Be
tasty.
good by the pool or
Right.
out there.
Would you like a
Those
sip,
in the
babe?
It would be really
Oh,
cool
this
next to
is
the
so
board.
delicious. Gosh, too bad he'll never know.
Put your feet up next to the board over here,
Here you go.
Chuck.
I feel bad for you. There you go, babe.
Let him have a sip.
There we go.
I'm working over there pushing buttons.
I'll put my let me put myself on
buttons.
camera.
Look at him.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
All right, there you go.
Awesome. Do you like
Thanks,
it?
babe.
Are you a fan? Do you like it?
I love it.
Okay.
Refreshing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And that's the thing, is because you should be able to have something fun and enjoyable that's not just like basic, like plain. And I'm all about that. What I do with my craft is about making something that someone is going to enjoy for an experience.
Yeah, of course. And I do think it's cool to make a drink and it doesn't have to have alcohol in it. You can have just as much fun.
Exactly. That's what it's about, man. It's just about that. So many of my friends have gotten sober, especially since COVID. Like former bartenders, they're like, dude, I overdid it. I'm like, I get it. I understand completely.
Yeah.
But so this is easy for you to try at home, and we'll link everything in the description. But so again, we have ginger ale, Topo Chico, orange bitters, fresh squeezed lemon juice, and that's it. Just shake and go, shake and pour. But don't shake the carbonated stuff because it'll burn your face off. So I know we only have a limited amount of time, but I just wanted to ask you about Beasto Blanco.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a few albums. You have all your videos posted, and I love the fact that you put so much work into like your videos, because that's just an extra layer of things. Like obviously the music's fucking awesome, and then you have like the visual component of it too. And so you have a new song out, and that's just, I listened to it the first day it came out. Like I was waiting for it. I saw you on TikTok post something, and I was like, ah!
Yeah.
So I love it. So how did you end up working with Calico?
Well, yeah. So Calico and I have known each other since I started with Alice Cooper, and we've been really super tight. And I just witnessed somebody, aside from our, relationship together and touring together as bandmates, I just saw somebody who just had this drive. She's a very creative force.
She seems it. That's the vibe you get. I saw somebody who I felt like everybody was sort of overlooking. Okay.
Like she was kind of raising her hand, but everybody was just sort of like going, they weren't they weren't
she had
giving
a bunch
her the
of stuff in there. I gotcha.
She had something, and she's a fantastic actor. She's an amazing screenwriter. She's her ideas, her brains is just constantly, coming up with ideas, and she's very current. And I had a vision with Beasto that I wrote a couple of tunes, and I heard, a female singing it, and the obvious choice was Calico to come in, because I obviously wanted to see what it would look like on stage. That's basically how it happened. She came in, she went to the studio and sang on a couple tunes, and then we just ended up touring together, and it wasn't something I don't think she was hip to at first. I don't think she had a desire to be a singer in a band. But she loves to be on the road, and we're a cool bunch of guys, and she was now surrounded by a bunch of people that love her and respect her, and also, chose her, and we wanted her talents to sort of pop, and she just had this opportunity to just be the character she wanted to be, and Machine Girl developed from all of this, and just this, I was watching this woman just blossom and come out of her shell, and she's just like, get out of my way, and she's just getting up there, and she's a fantastic performer. I mean, she really lets loose. Like I've never seen anybody do ever the way she can really seems to have the music running through her.
That's awesome.
It's amazing to watch. And not only that, but she directed and produced, wrote the new Run for Your Life video. We have an agreement with Beasto. It's not a very hard one to come up with, but we don't have any arguments between the band either, to be quite honest with you. We everybody kind of knows their role, and we had
cool.
said to Calico, hey, I want you to be charged of the video photography side of things, because I just trust her vision, and she directed this video. We ended up doing 11 videos for the 11 songs on the new record.
That's a lot of work.
A lot of work. And some of them are, full-length videos. Others are going to be, 30-second, 1 minute here and there. But enough to keep the visual there for the look and the sound of the record. The sound, each song is so different in its own unique way. And this was a great way to tell the story.
That's cool.
And the record will be coming out this summer. And yeah, we're excited for everyone to hear it, and we can't wait to get out there and start playing it.
We're definitely looking forward to
thanks.
it. That's awesome. Yeah. I kind of got that vibe off of her from like a few years ago, which it was. It wasn't The Grind, but there was another song, and it's escaping me right now.
Solitary Rave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And she was, you could just tell she was just so, like, into it. So,
yeah.
like, not knowing anything about her background, I could tell that it was something she just really enjoyed, and she did a good job at it.
Yeah. She, like I said, mentioned earlier, she's an actress. So she is really good at, playing the role. Mm-hmm. And I think at first she was like, well, I'm just going to act like a lead singer. And then all of a sudden she realized, like, wait a minute, this feels really good. And I'm not cool. really thinking about too much. I'm letting it roll here. And
it's something about those genes.
Yeah, it could be. Absolutely. Right. I think, obviously being around her father, they have an approach to things which I do admire. And I think most people should practice more, which is no's not an answer. Especially when you're a creative person. If you're in a band or you're an artist, painter, whatever it is, no is not the answer that people want to hear or you should be telling yourself. It's yes, but what if, and then you add what's important to you or how you see it.
Sure.
And that's what Calico is. So I will say to her, hey, we don't have any props tonight. Everything got left in London, and now here we are in Germany, and we're screwed. Sure. We don't have your props. But I did find this pile of lights.
Right.
She's like, yeah, okay. What if I got, and then she'll
just make something happen.
She'll make something happen. She'll be like, oh, okay, well, we can do that. We'll, do whatever she's going to do with it or whatever. She's not going to just say, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
She's
not going to say that ruins everything.
Yeah, never. And the same with me. The same will go with when she's telling me or wanting me to do a certain thing or something. And so it's kind of opened up everybody in the band with Beasto is that, we have learned that, hey, whatever you do is cool. We want that. And we will champion you and we will put you in the limelight, but we also know that you will help support us when this part's coming along or whatever. So it's not a division of importance with anybody or nobody's kind of put in the corner. We all kind of, we need each other and we let everybody know that. You know what I mean? So we're all sort of the Sherpas.
I like that.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier that way when people know they have a responsibility. And again, like if I'm going to, ask, her to I'm not going to set Calico up for failure, and she's not going to set me up for failure either, and I'm not going to set Brother Latham up for failure. So we kind of lean on each other's strong points, and then what happens is you realize that not all of us are the same. So before you know it, you got this army of people that are good at these things, and now you feel comfortable about it because maybe something I'm not good at Calico is. So we lean on each other for those type of things. So we've learned to just set ourselves up for success other than pointing fingers and calling each other names.
I like that.
No, it sounds like a true democracy too, man, like being in a band with people with like-minded and the goal is just to have everybody be happy and contribute. And
yeah, it is. It's true, man. As long as they do what I tell them to do, everything will be fine.
Yeah, man. That's what I say, man.
It's a real team.
It's a real team effort.
Chuck.
Just listen to me.
I was going to say, it is like the most perfect team, though, and just having it in that sense that you could do. Yeah,
and I think the thing is what people need to realize is that on the road, anything can happen. You want to be stuck. I try to think of it as like, who do I want to be stuck on the side of the highway with,
Oh, and, that's a good way to.
Yeah, because it does happen. Or who do I want to be stuck in a venue when nobody's there to see your band play?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And who's going to give it their all anyway?
Right.
We are, and that has happened to us, and then a couple of months later we're playing in front of a sold out, a stadium, 50,000 people. But who knows what would happen if we didn't treat the what some people would say bummers or failures with still. Fun and using it as a opportunity to practice.
There's a lot of wisdom to that.
Yeah, sure.
And
Definitely.
Yeah, no, that's something that like you don't hear from many people, or just don't think about it concisely. Is that when is Beasto Blanco gonna tour the U.S.?
Yeah, September. We'll be on tour in September.
Fantastic.
I've got a busy year with Alice and Beasto. I wish we were doing more dates with Beasto as well. But it's going to be selective dates. I think there's like 10 shows we're doing in September. We're going to be over in Europe in July and August, and then back in November. But we'll always be out and about doing something.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
We're definitely going to come and see you this time, for sure. This is my first time doing it, and it'll be my first time seeing Beasto Blanco, and just the milestone of seeing the Alice Cooper show this year. So, yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I know that, man, I just want to say thank you so much for coming here, because I know that you're a very busy man, and just making the time to come hang out.
That's cool.
And
Thanks for inviting me, and congrats on this awesome podcast that you got going on, and good for you.
We're excited. We feel good
Appreciate
about
you,
it.
man. Thank you so much.
Sure, bro.
We feel good about it. It's a lot of work, but it's good work. It's fun, and I got a good partner in crime.
Everything's a little, if it's not hard work, it's not worth it. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to be busy, and I like to do a bunch of stuff, and I mean, just do it with my husband. It's cool. It's great.
Does he know about it? About your husband?
I don't know much, Chuck. I don't know much. She just tells me what to do, dude. Right. I have no idea what I'm doing over here.
Well, cheers.
Cool. Cheers to you.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks, and everybody look out for the new Beasto Blanco album coming out this summer, and then the tour dates. You'll see Chuck there.
All right.
All right.
Peace out.
Until next time. Hey, you've just watched or listened to another episode of Nashville on the Rocks. If you like what we do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to follow us on all of our socials and on your favorite podcast streaming apps. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.